just wipe out at any time, okay? It I haven't had a very good track record lately with the Wi-Fi, with the connection. So yeah, sorry. I should probably put a different, just stay there. That's better. Had a mini skirt on. Good look anyway, not with my old legs. Yeah, so I just wanted to give an opinion, and probably lots of people will be able to say, well, that's a very hypocritical opinion, Humanimal. Because, I do go pretty tough and rough on people sometimes, and what I'm going to say now is just to say to people, maybe you need to just cool your jets and keep your opinions to yourself. And I'm just talking specifically about Macy and Mallory Morphew, okay? And some of the opinions that people like to give about the girls. Look, hey, sure, it's a possibility that, yeah, they are opportunistic, and they just want money, and they want Barry to have a lawsuit because they know even if he eventually gets put away, they'll get money. I mean, honestly, yeah, so I think people can keep their opinions to themselves, frankly, and they just say the cruelest things, even to the point of making, these just catty, bitchy comments about them looking like the Kardashians when they're walking out of court and things like that. I mean, so you're talking about Suzanne's daughters here. Suzanne's daughters, she raised them in a particular way to groom themselves, to care about how they appear, and what the frick is wrong with that? So we know that Barry Morphew a while ago was charged with first-degree murder, and then before it went to actual trial, the case was dropped, and there's a whole lot of phooey going down in Chaffee County, Colorado, to do with DA Linda Stanley, and also a lot of, the experts and things that were called. Not there yet. Hi, difficult screen on this end. Am I oscillating or something? All I was going to do, not there yet, was jump on and say, okay, so we've got new interview on Good Morning America with Macy and Mallory. Okay, Macy and Mallory Morphew, who are sitting, side and side of Barry Morphew, being interviewed and being asked questions. Did they have any inkling that anything in the marriage would lead to murder? They're not being asked, yeah, if the interview was more in depth, and maybe if they were talking to police officers, law enforcement officers, maybe they would talk in depth. Yeah, there was arguments, it was uncomfortable. Mum and dad just didn't seem happy, but we didn't want them to divorce. We wanted them to work it out. But, of course they're going to say no, because what they think they're being asked is, Did you see anything in the marriage between your mother and your father that would lead to Barry murdering Suzanne? So that's essentially what it boils down to, that they're being asked, or that they think they're being asked. So, regardless of Macy and Miles, and their conversations and what Miles might be able to reveal, Macy has told him in the past, Miles being an ex-boyfriend of Macy's. I think he was her current boyfriend at the time, and she was very close to Miles's family, and I think lived with him at a time, and maybe because of a difficult situation between her mother and Barry, and we don't know why, okay? Maybe she didn't want to live quite so isolated in the mountain. I don't know how far away Miles and the father were. I don't think they were that far away, actually. But, okay, can you see the bruise on my head here? I walked into my screen door. I just didn't see that the glass was pulled across, and I just went to walk inside and went smack. Probably got concussion. So a lot is being made of that. Oh, the liars. Oh, look, they could be manipulated by Barry. They could just be clinging on to family. They basically have no other family now, really, other than maybe Barry's side of the family. I'd say their world got so much smaller to do with family. And I just think judgment should be withheld, right? Okay, just what was I going to say? So okay, so in this Good Morning America, they're asked, what has this really been like? And, Mallory says, it's very sad and it's very confusing. And Macy says it's so traumatic. It's literally our worst nightmare. And, and the interviewer asked the most dense, thoughtless of all questions that people ask, right? And so many journalists do this. They say, what do you miss the most, kind of thing, right? You're not really going to say, well, that her smile, her presence, her love, her skill for riding horses and restoring furniture. I mean, it's just them. It's the fact that this whole entire person is wiped off the face, out of existence. They're just not there. Nothing about them exists anymore except painful memories. And it's such a stupid question, for them to be asked. But of course they're asked it. And, so they can only say, just not having Mom, just not having her. And Barry chimes with, just not knowing, just the not knowing. But Macy and Mallory are aware of their mother's. I'll try not to do this sort of head bob. They're aware of the affair by now, and who knows? They might be chalking, because Barry was saying for the last 2 or 3 years, you've been withdrawing your love. I'm not feeling the love of a wife for a husband. Now, okay, we can say that Suzanne, because her marriage was not, she'd been through a lot of illnesses. She was maybe just unhappy in this marriage. She wasn't feeling fulfilled. You might assume, and that's why she started the affair, right? But, it's like, well, Barry, in 2 or 3 years before Suzanne's disappearance, felt that withdrawal deeply. And Suzanne was withdrawn as a wife because it's reversible. It's rabbit. Yeah, so, and then there's the Saturn there. Yeah, so she had withdrawn her affection. She wanted another man, a man that had failed her decades earlier. She does question in these texts, and this is really sad, because a lot of people, I think, when they're young, there's not that perspective, and you don't know how to make a good decision. And if she didn't have people that she could confide in honestly with when she was 17, 19, 21, yeah, and she's regretting her decision. She's wondering who she was to make the decision to choose Barry way back when, right? Sorry, I should have thought this out a bit more. It was just I just can't stand the bullying of Macy and Mallory. I don't have any, psychoanalysis about it or anything. We can all imagine all the shenanigans, right? Um, but they're really between a rock and a hard place, and we need to remember that Suzanne, and maybe a lot of people are like this with their friends, she was not being honest with Sheila. Sheila was having discussions with Suzanne on the premise that Suzanne was being really, she thought, oh, Suzanne's being really raw and honest with me. I'm such a good friend. She knew 5%, didn't she? Suzanne was not telling her about JL. She wasn't being honest. And of course, okay, guilt, shame, whatever, or manipulation, right? That's making a narrative. I don't deny, I'm not deluded to think that, look, there wasn't this really awful push-pull relationship with Barry and Susan with what they want and how they were trying to negotiate a way forward with their marriage, sure. You make up your own minds about whether someone who's having an affair for 2 years, emotional or otherwise, and it was physical, and she carried around, she traveled around the country to have holidays with this person, lying to her family and her friends about where she was, and using them as alibis so that she could have her holidays with her lover. And she was betraying her family, and Barry maintains that he did not know until after, but that Suzanne was continually, there's so many angles, but I just hate hearing all the bullying going on about the girls. I just think it's so unwarranted, even if something turns out to be true, right? Just shut up. Leave them the fuck alone. They're in a living hell. I really, yeah, it can't be anything else that they're going through other than hell, okay? And I think people are very small-minded in the way that they judge what people would do and actions, and they're not very good at really understanding what it's like to live through things and being realistic and understanding, these multifaceted sides of human nature and relationships, and the fact that no single person knows a person other than that person, and people don't even know themselves, right? And people lie to themselves, they lie to others. There's a whole lot of half truths, quarter truths, and of course, the girls are going to defend Barry now and defend the relationship between Barry and Suzanne, because, if they, in their hearts, if they think, I know he's not guilty, then they are going to see those arguments as just arguments that could lead to divorce. And, a father that's a good Christian father that, was just trying to not get divorced. That's how they're going to see it. They're not going to see him as being capable, maybe, of premeditating a murder and hiding their own mother's body and then lying about it to them and to the world for 3 years. Exactly what are they supposed to do? And it's natural. We see this often, people clinging to the last parent, and being very manipulated by the parents. We've got to remember they were 16 and were they 20, 16 and 20 or something, or 19 or something like that. I know Mallory is a little bit older, but our brains are still, we are still immature in our minds up until about 25. And you can have some very black and white views of the world, right? When you're a young woman, you can have such strong opinions. It'll be the same opinions that led, Suzanne Moorman to marry Barry Morphew, right? And these girls, I think that, they're missing their mother desperately. They want to know what happened. They know that she was having an affair, and they think their father's heartbroken maybe. Or, we don't know all the manipulation and the emotional black quiet male and gaslighting that might be going on, and, sometimes these things draw people closer together rather than have them say, okay, there's a little bit of doubt here, so I'm just going to listen to everything else. And because there's a little bit of doubt, sorry, Dad, I can't have anything to do with you. Wow. I mean, what a bet to take, right? What a gamble with your own father. No, you would cling on for dear life until the last moment. And why they are being judged for that, I don't know. Why people decide to talk about their looks, I don't know, and how they present themselves. I think that's just infuriating and vile and disgusting. Yeah, anyway, that was all. Because, he's filed a lawsuit through Iris Eaton, and I can't remember the other lady's name. Something that rhymes with trial in it. And yeah, he's filing a $15 million lawsuit. I mean, okay, yeah, sure, he's a psychopath might do that, and an innocent man might do that as well, right? There are some things that aren't cleared up that police should have worked harder at clearing up. They were their own worst enemy at times, with Agent Grusing, who has had further fame working on Letitia Stout's case. He was sent in to close and find out where Gannon was, and he didn't. And, she was a tough nut though, wasn't she? But, he's the one that has, he's brought doubt on the credibility of law enforcement officers who have put forward and examined data, because he proposed that Barry Morphew was chasing Suzanne around the house, running through walls at hundreds of miles an hour. And data should never have been presented that way. And I just think it just, brings in these questions of credibility. But, Suzanne, she clearly needs to be found, and until then, and maybe forever after, Mallory and Macy should not be attacked. I know they're grown women now. It's a rough time. We've had April the 30th, which is their mother's birthday, and then the anniversary passed, May the 10th, of when she went missing. The hotel room was booked on May the 3rd, and I'm trying to remember what was happening around the 3rd that we know of with Barry and Suzanne's relationship. I really need to review everything, because is that when she told him? That's not when she told him she was done, though, was it? Do you know Not There Yet or Cement Shoes? Do you know when that was? Was that on May the 3rd? I thought it was after. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to get off here because this is so bad. I just wanted to say, It sickens me. I jumped off a chat that I am a moderator in because I didn't want to be modding all the spite and vitriol against the girls, because I'd just be hiding everybody. And then Humanimal gets accused of micromanagement and just being heavy-handed and everything. But people really hate them. They really hate them. They don't reserve the same feelings for Suzanne Morphew's actual. It was May the 10th, but I'm just asking, when was it that Suzanne had said to Barry, "I'm done," and what had happened sort of in the week prior? You know, because he did book that room at the Broomfield Hotel Inn Express a week before that. And yes, people, the pool was open actually, and it was definitely full of water. It was 2 days later that the announcement was through for public pools and pools such as in hotels to not be accessible by civilians. Yeah. But yes, look, Barry's trudging around town. He's just gone to throw out some rubbish. I mean, maybe he's petty. He wanted to punish his wife who was withdrawn all her love, and he senses something is wrong, and he's true, because she's sleeping with Jeff and had been for some time. She's being very, she's not being honest with her friend about it. So we don't know what else she is manipulating and saying, right? Is everything else true that she's saying to her friend except for that? But she's saying that Barry doesn't know how to be honest and this and that, but she's being extremely dishonest. She's extremely hypocritical. She's accusing him of all the things that she's doing. Nothing was caught on the spy pen, not him abusing her. What was caught on the spy pen was Suzanne Morphew and her affair with Jeff, her ex-boyfriend. I don't think she would do a Gone Girl cement shoes. I don't think she'd do a Gone Girl. Why? Why in God's name would Suzanne Morphew abandon Macy and Mallory? She wouldn't do it, right? She wouldn't do it. Yeah, she was probably utterly bored in her marriage. She wanted something different. She wanted more. And she was escaping to Jeff for something that was missing. And of course, well, you can't just keep performing in a role as wife when, you've emotionally left the marriage, and she wanted a divorce. And she would have been concerned about money and everything. And, there were other questions of her the money that she was getting from her father, for example, who was very ill and she wasn't told. And, there's a lot of theories. There's still the theory about no one wanting Suzanne's share to go to Barry. And if they don't know that she's going to get better, right? What if the money went there and then he's got hold of it if Suzanne dies? It's pretty sick. It's a sick theory, but why did, I mean, I'll pray for you, and then she deletes it. Really not engaged, really not being present. And she'd gone through the same thing herself, which might be why, no wonder Suzanne maybe wasn't opening up. And Yeah, it's very complicated because look, we're human beings, aren't we? So even, good people, they lie, they tell porky pies, they spin a narrative, they want support from people, and they want support too. They want support for the decision they're going to make about the thing that they want to do. So, they can manipulate their friends with the information they give out so that the friend will support them in what they want and not give them some other advice. And that would have really hurt Macy and Mallory to hear that their mum was having an affair. But at the same time, I think if things were a lot different, they might have sort of even understood it or forgiven it. Um, but, it could have pushed them closer to their dad even more because they felt like, wow, um, they were all lied to, and maybe they don't know their mother as well as they thought. Hopefully they can just try to understand. I mean, I don't know what the circumstances are if there's two different types of people in the world, someone that could have an affair under any circumstance and someone that wouldn't. But, plenty of people do. It's just that there is zero evidence for Barry Morphew having an affair, and Susan was. And he was a dweeb back in high school and didn't fight for her, and he was a dweeb now when he had a lot to lose by having an affair in the first place because he's got a wife and 6 children. I don't know if they're still together, but he was spending time away from his family that he could have with his family to be with Suzanne, and she was saying she was spending time with her family and friends and spending time with him. And I'm sure that was devastating for the girls to learn. And I'd say they believe their father when he says, I did not know. So I was trying to fight for our marriage and I didn't know why Suzanne had pulled away, and now we know why. And this would be very confusing. I mean, I think as they grow into their womanhood, they're going to understand a lot more, right? So who knows what will happen. But yeah, it's just my opinion. I just think when people are slagging them off, and especially the really meaningless, the real meaningless, offensive remarks, about their smiles, about their, saying, oh, they're so fake and they're just so grubby for money and all of this stuff, right? And yeah, I think they're devastated. And anyway, I'm boring myself, and I don't think anyone is here that knows much more, not there yet, knows about it, I know. I thought that was awful that Melinda deleted her text. She says, I'll pray for you, and then deletes the text. But, families are complicated, aren't they? But they weren't close. Suzanne took days to get back to her brother for a birthday message that he sent, and they did not tell her that Jean was gravely sick. They did not tell her. And you have to ask why. Families are so complex, aren't they? Relationships are so complex. Anyway, so I hope the girls are going to be all right no matter what. I think this is actually very hard for them, but who knows if, maybe Barry just says, hey, this is what's happening. I'm suing. Yes, we will interview. Iris Eaton will tell us with whom and when. Or maybe they're very happy to do it, and maybe they're just so furious that after losing their mother, that, life has just been devastating because of what they perceive as unjustness towards their father and their family, and maybe they feel like it is the right thing to do. I can't see how they feel like they've got the energy or the want to go through it all. It's just, oh, it's going to be awful and so exposing, and it's going to demand so much of them. They're coming under scrutiny again simply because they're daughters who are standing by their father, who may or may not be the victims of narcissistic abuse. We don't know. They're very confused, as they themselves say. And I know that a lot of people are 100% convinced that that they just feel it in their waters, sort of thing. They're convinced that Barry did it. I mean, he might very well be very capable of murdering Suzanne, and he could have done it, yeah. But he might not have. And yeah, I mean, look, he may have had someone come and do it. But, I don't think all the evidence was followed up properly. I don't think anything, I'm not sure how. I mean, police work solves crimes, and clearly it was a screw up in this case, wasn't it? They didn't get to Broomfield Hotel and Express quickly enough, and therefore they didn't see other footage around town of where Morphew was dumping rubbish, so they didn't get to go and recover the rubbish, which could very well just be rubbish. They had some domestic bins that they all pay for in the enclave where they live at Puma Path, and neighbours tend not to like people dumping commercial waste and things into a bin that they are also paying for to be emptied. And apparently it was a practice of Barry's to just go and get rid of his trash in ways where he doesn't have to pay for it. And yeah, I certainly know contractors who do that sort of thing. It's just a thing. It's a thing, right? But we will never know. This is what's so sickening, is we will never know. Now, people are being harsh on the officers who were first at the scene and then went and discovered the bike. And because they touched the bike, well, it's not running through their heads immediately. Now, maybe they need training, but it's not running through their heads immediately that here is a murder investigation. They are looking for a missing person, and they just weren't thinking. Does this have any bearing on how evidentiary the bike is? Probably not, though, right? But they didn't handle things in the house very well. They're using plastic bags and not paper, and you do not do that with evidence. A little bizarre, but of course, it's a bizarre situation for law enforcement to be thrown into. But at the same time, aren't they supposed to be having ongoing training and education, so that they are ready for anything, so that they are ready to use their observation skills, so that they are, the main thing is, ready to act in the correct procedural manner. Because it's that plod work, that police work that solves crimes or lets people go and lets them get away with things for decades and decades, because things weren't done properly at the start, and good old police work was put aside for other things, and for one-track minds and for profiling or whatever it is, or someone's theory and it was run with, or inexperience, and it's basically coming down to poor management. You could say that about the Delphi case. Until we've seen Richard Allen in trial, though, and heard all the evidence around, say, Richard Allen coming forward in 2017, until we know the date, the time, the place, etc., I guess we can't really judge. But it appears that there was a huge case being run for a double homicide where they do have the bodies of the two girls murdered, and whomever is running the operation and in charge of procedure and running the team and the debriefings and cross-referencing all the information of the different teams. I mean, it was just poor management that a person that fit the description of a suspect had come forward and said he was there at the time that they were killed, and nothing was done. That's bad management, and that's, a head should really roll, whether it's Carter's or Riley's or whose. Anyway, this is crap. Don't know who's here because you don't say hello. So thank you, Cement Shoes. Thank you, Not There Yet. And whomever else is here but doesn't even say fucking hello. So fuck you, goodbye. No, that's rude, isn't it? I'm just grumpy. It just makes me fucking grumpy. And, lurk away. I don't give a fuck. But, yeah, it's hard to have a conversation when I've said, do you want to come on and just chat and give your opinion, but you'll come on and you'll just sit there. Yeah, I just feel bad for these girls. It's really, they are going to be just thrown in under scrutiny. They're a lot older now, but, they've just gone through 3 years of trauma. And good night, Cement Shot. Sorry, that was really jerky of me, wasn't it? 3 years of trauma, and they're still by their dad's side. We don't know why. Maybe because they love him. Maybe because they really believe that he had nothing to do with Suzanne's disappearance. Maybe psychologically they just can't go there. Okay? Maybe they feel hurt because as much as they love their mother and they can't stand that she's just gone, she's just out of their lives, and they don't know what happened. Maybe, they feel more for their dad because they see that he was being betrayed, so to speak. No matter what a poor husband he was beforehand, Suzanne chose to I wasn't talking to you, honey. Exactly. She chose to marry him. Okay, maybe when she was young, when she was vulnerable, hello, they aren't ready to accept the facts. Exactly. And some of the things that people are saying, and I know AK Rocks, that if you see something that's really harsh, I know that you will just say, look, let's give them a break. But a lot of people aren't, and it spreads like wildfire. And when people give their opinions about, I reckon they went away knowing, I reckon they knew and they went away. I mean, we don't know. And God damn it. I mean, can you imagine the psychological snap, right? And what they're going to have to deal with. What if this, throughout the lawsuit, what happens after that? What if charges are brought up against Barry and then he is, oh, thank you, AK Rocks. No, and people need to go and, they can watch. I mean, was it in the affidavit that all the texts were out and now you've got people that knew Suzanne, or you've got your friends or people on the case that have made the recordings, and they are very good. But do you understand what I'm saying? That, she's saying that he's so good at manipulating and he's manipulating the girls, and yet she's not being truthful herself. And I think that's got to really harm, in a way, how the girls feel now. Of course, they're going to stand more by their dad because it's probably really taken the rug out from under them. And, yeah, the People Exhibit released the texts. Yeah. Because I know I've read all of this before you've done these recordings, but you've been AK Rocks has been releasing recordings that he's made, so readings of texts between Shirley, I think, and Suzanne, and she's talking about her marriage, and she's saying that Barry, he keeps manipulating the girls, particularly maybe Macy, and just really dragging her in, and he'll do things that are just really inappropriate, like just getting the girls together and saying, your mother is saying this about me and she doesn't like our marriage and she wants a divorce, and she's, and which is just you know, what an awful thing to do, even to teenagers or older children, right? You know, let alone Macy still being 16 years old at the time. And so she's talking about that. She's saying that, you know, he's quite impossible. And she's sort of wavering a little bit sometimes because she thinks, well, you know, should I just try to be a wife again and see how it goes? But she knows in her heart, you know, she knows she doesn't, she knows she's not. I think relationships, God, they're really complicated. I hope she didn't hate him. I don't know. But she didn't love him, or she wasn't fulfilled. She'd been through so much with her health. She was telling her friend Shirley that um, he was saying, well, if you get a divorce from me, what's going to happen with your medical bills and things like that? The thing is, we don't know. He said that. And this is, see, this is really a tricky thing. It's still, even though it's in her own words, and I know that's how AK has turned it in her own words. Yeah, it's in her narrative. We don't know what is true. And I think it must be very confusing for the Dirt girls. But also, guess what? Guess who was there? Macy and Mallory were there, grew up with the two of them. They could just really believe that there's no way the arguments and the tension was worth more than divorce, right? Oh, I just had to say something because it's just been a few days of just seeing some really vile comments, and I know I make up my mind about things too, but I don't know. I feel like there's a line when it's, you know, daughters of a person that when they weren't around, their mother has disappeared off the face of the planet. What what do you expect them to do? People don't seem capable of real, you know, really putting themselves in shoes and they think things are so easy, and I don't think they really can experience the intensity. Not there yet. A Berry Lover by Beezy Mama. Oh, yeah. I know. Look, Beezy's close to Colorado. She was gonna, you know, go and make some film for me. This is 3 years ago, and then give it to me. And then I didn't like something she said, so she's. I think because I made it. I don't know. I can't remember what it was all about. It's always there's always political, and yeah. I know. It's hasn't it been crazy? Gosh, if we were to reflect, I mean, of course, yeah, I'm a Barry lover, apparently. Um, it's funny. It's funny because I'm very open about a lot of cases, right? um, before they go to trial, before there's conclusions, you know, I will give my opinion. For example, Letitia Stalk or whatever it is, Laurie Vallow. Um, but yeah, I just can't. I don't know. I don't want to appear stupid. It's not that I don't think Barry could have done it. And whether that's premeditated, a rage event, but I think there might be, I think there's a few more things to things. I think there is. There's a few things I won't say, but yeah. I I don't know, God. I mean, you end up having so much history with so many different people, guys, that sometimes you can't remember. um, yeah, and then you see them around, and 3 years later, and you can't remember. Was there beef? Or do I just know the name? Why do I know the name? I never used to block people, and now, and then I just had to block so many people, didn't I, through mainly over this case. I think that's the only case I've blocked people from, actually, and maybe Delphi, of course. Yeah. Oh, did you notice? So on Good Morning America, no, Web Sleuths. Trisha, are you going to go on Web Sleuths, AK? No, thank you, because, look, I know we haven't seen eye to eye for various reasons, and that was more to do with something. I mean, you know where it originated from. But are you going to go on Web Sleuths? Because Trisha, she said, I think she thinks that you were the Tyson Draper interview person, okay? Because she said today, I just was listening to her before, which is why I've come on here, because there were just the Macy and Mallory comments were just peeing me off, you know. But she said, so this is a guy that was, on the spot in Colorado when Suzanne went missing, and interviewed Barry on the side of the road, and now he's put together these videos that you've made of the texts, and yeah, we know that wasn't you. Yeah, but there's a lot that you can filtration on, that's for sure. I mean, there's so much that has happened. There's so much that's happened. Oh, okay, yeah, but yes, okay, you spent 27 minutes with Barry on the side of the road. Okay. She might have been talking about something else then. Yeah. And your time with Jared. Yeah. Yeah, it's just $15 million. I mean, do you think Barry himself is driving this? I mean, he said a year ago, actually, he was going to sue, right? So he's taken a year to get the idea, to get that right, and get everything ready, and to actually forge ahead and sue. Oh, yeah. And yeah, what do you reckon's going to happen with that? I mean, has he got a flying snowball's chance in hell, or what? I know nothing about how these things work, civil cases or whatever it is, and how would you go about suing a county government or a state government and all these state officials. But they acted appallingly, because they just did a very poor job, and I don't want to say they deserve it, but they're in office for a reason. They're there to do a job, but they're there. We all know Linda Stanley's just there to pat her own ego in pockets. So he's jacked now that 40 plus individual lawyers can depose them. He's jacked. Does that mean he's screwed? That 40 individual lawyers can depose his lawyers using their information? Tyson Draper was the first. Yeah, because I had notifications on to Tyson Draper, not there yet, because he'd just visited Arizona. He'd gone to the home where Alex Cox shot Charles Vello, and I was really interested in what was happening with that, and that was the first time I just saw hey, just some guy, some YouTuber go, this boots on the ground thing and turn up and say, hey, I just sort of show you what it looks like. Here's the street, here's the house, and just talk about the case like that, right? So one night, middle of the night, and of course, a lot of it is was really constructed to build evidence, build interest, I'm sure. But it was like, hey, he was in the middle of the night, and he didn't know whether to show something that he'd just found. And I think that's when he then showed the sandwiches that had the dates written on them and everything. And he was saying that it looked like Barry Morphew's handwriting, and then that got compared to the chalk writing in the gym where someone had actually added in the M. I'm sure he didn't write Barry M. They added the M. The handwriting looks different. But okay, please don't argue with AK not there about blocking. Fuck, you have to block people. I'm going to lose my battery power. Hold on a minute if you want. You can go if you want, but let me just get a charger in here. Now, sometimes you just have to, because people come on and you try and have a conversation and you can't, or sometimes they're just pushing their own thing, and you think, do you know what, if you've got something really bold to say, go and make it on your own channel. I mean, that's what I started doing, basically, because I'd write things in something like, I'd write them in Linda It's a Crimes comment section. So my theory was that Letitia Stout went to Palmer Lakes. Wrote that in the comment section. Next thing, it turns up in a video of hers and unacknowledged, right? So, hi, Jules. So, AK's saying there were dozens of bags of lunch stuff. Yeah, 14 photos of Barry's mom's bags given to searchers. Okay, right. So that's probably what it was that he found it. But I can't remember what the actual. Yeah, I don't know. And then of course, he made and then he showed that video of Barry rolling by in the car behind him, yeah. And, he rocked it at first. He really did, yeah. And that's when I made my video, kudos to Tyson Draper for doing something that, was quite amazing, because he gave us that really good glimpse. He got an interview. People, we're looking at the hands, and of course his hands were very meaty and bloody by then. Not there yet, do you remember? Because he'd been down digging in the creek and everything. But you can see on the night when the police get there that the light is on the car, and from the vehicles are on his hands, and they are lily white, right, on the day he gets back from. Oh God, I can't, no way. Yeah, I cannot abide him or his child abusing brother. Yeah. And what is that dickhead Draper's name again? Yeah, filming himself abusing a child so that he can, Dusty. Yeah, what a puke. Yep, what a puke. The leopards like that do not change their spots, and when people have CSAM, then I know you've got good, and it's all right. I mean, look, it's just there's so many factions and things, and we've all got so much history, not there yet and under the bridge, and we flip flop around, and there's arguments and disagreements and tensions and things. But I think at the end of the day, we've got to remember that basically there's a woman called Suzanne Morphew who just was taken off the face of the earth and was really maybe done a disservice by not having a proper investigation or or maybe it went as best as it could go. I mean, I used to know a lot more about it, but I feel like, yeah, people are definitely let down all the time by law enforcement. And yeah. Yeah, Jules, have you been seeing? Yeah, I just couldn't stand since the, announcement of the lawsuit and all that's going on, that Macy and Mallory are under attack. It just seems so pointless. It's like they're not the issue. Like okay, they get accused of knowing, of being complicit. And again, anything's possible, but that's just that's a really big call, right? Isn't it? And when people go on and abusing them and just with all their throwaway garbage gossip lines and comment sections, I can't abide it. Okay, it's pretty normal. It's probably pretty natural that they are standing by their dad. They have been in hell for 3 years. They are so confused, probably. They don't know what to do. And so they're doing all that they can. All they can do is be with their dad. They probably feel like now this is that they probably feel pretty alone with it. And rather than being supportive for being loyal and loving and trying to be mature beyond, I mean, in such a difficult time and to front up and to do that, it must be very difficult. And rather than being supported for that and how hard it must be, yeah, it's so intense. And of course they would be questioning. They probably do question everything and mull over everything. And you know what? I bet they feel really fucking guilty that they were away on holiday. Maybe they feel angry. It must be confusing because they know that their mum was going away on holidays with another man, and maybe they're confused about when the marriage actually started breaking down. I mean, it could have been 10 years before Suzanne went missing, right? That she decided, oh God, this is never going to work. I'm such a different person. I want to grow, and Barry never wants to change. I mean, that's got to be awful, right? I mean, in a good marriage, surely it's two people that can grow as individuals and together, And it's like Barry never developed any sophistication, did he? I mean, yeah. It would have been very frustrating for a woman who is wanting to explore different things and was really probably yearning for deep connection and excitement and not just the nice holidays and things. Yeah. Gaslight, but see, that's the thing, right? So, yeah, well, Barry's saying one thing to go to the girls about the relationship, right? And being saying too much, and and Suzanne's trying to protect them, sort of thing. But at the same time, is she now? I think I've dropped out. At the same time, is she? Because have I dropped out? Oh well, thanks for listening. Thanks for chatting, AK Rocks and Jules, and Not There Yet, and Cement Shoes. Thank you. I hope you do go on Web Sleuths. You know, that'll be interesting. That's good. It's just, you know, it's good exposure. It's different audience. Um, you know, people have mixed feelings about that channel as well. But yeah, take care.